The cold mountain wind carried a silence that felt heavier than the backpacks we had hauled for miles. I never imagined that one ordinary camping trip with my best friend would become the night that changed everything I believed about friendship, fear, and the courage to tell the truth. Years have passed since that night beneath the endless stars, yet I can still remember the exact moment she shifted inside the sleeping bag, turned toward me in the darkness, and quietly asked if I was still awake. Those 4 simple words opened a door neither of us had been brave enough to touch for years. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and genuine friendships deserve to be celebrated, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps more heartwarming stories reach people who may need hope today. Emily and I had been inseparable since middle school. We survived awkward teenage years together, celebrated every small victory, and stood beside each other through heartbreaks that seemed impossible to survive at the time. Everyone assumed we would always remain best friends because we understood each other better than anyone else. Yet life has a strange way of creating distance even between people whose hearts are deeply connected. College, demanding jobs, family responsibilities, and different cities slowly replaced spontaneous adventures with occasional text messages and rushed phone calls. We still cared, but we had forgotten how to simply exist in each other's company. When Emily suggested a weekend camping trip to the mountains where we had once dreamed of traveling after graduation, I agreed without hesitation. I thought it would simply be a nostalgic escape from busy lives. I had no idea that both of us were carrying invisible burdens that had become too heavy to bear alone. The hike was longer than expected, and a sudden rainstorm soaked nearly all our equipment before we reached the campsite. The temperature dropped quickly after sunset, leaving us with only one dry sleeping bag because mine had become completely soaked. We laughed at the situation at first, joking that adulthood hadn't made us any smarter than we had been at 16. But as darkness settled around the forest and the fire slowly faded into glowing embers, the laughter disappeared, replaced by a peaceful silence that somehow felt safe. Inside the shared sleeping bag, there was barely enough room to move. Outside, the wind pushed against the tent while tree branches whispered overhead. For the first time in years, there were no phones, no notifications, no distractions, only 2 lifelong friends surrounded by nature and memories. I stared into the darkness, unable to sleep, replaying every missed opportunity to stay close to someone who had always mattered more than I admitted. Then I felt her shift slightly beside me. After a long pause, she quietly asked whether I was awake. I answered yes, expecting another joke about the freezing weather. Instead, the silence stretched before she admitted that she had been pretending everything was fine for almost 2 years. She confessed that losing her mother had left a hole she never managed to fill. She smiled at work, comforted everyone around her, and acted strong because she thought grieving forever would disappoint the people who depended on her. But every evening she returned to an empty apartment where the loneliness became almost unbearable. Her words broke something inside me because I realized I had been doing exactly the same thing. I admitted that after my father's passing, I buried myself in endless work to avoid facing the emptiness waiting at home. I convinced myself that asking for help would make me appear weak. The truth was that I wasn't exhausted because of my career. I was exhausted from carrying pain that I refused to share. For hours we talked without worrying about time. We remembered our parents' kindness, laughed through tears over embarrassing childhood stories, and apologized for allowing life to convince us that staying busy was more important than staying connected. We realized neither of us needed perfect advice. We simply needed someone willing to listen without judgment. The next morning the mountains looked completely different. The same forest that had felt lonely the night before now seemed full of life. Sunlight poured through the trees, warming the campsite while birds greeted the new day. Our problems hadn't magically disappeared, but something inside us had changed. The weight each of us carried no longer belonged to one person alone. When we returned home, we made a promise that our friendship would never again become another forgotten priority. Every Sunday evening became our tradition. Sometimes we met for coffee. Sometimes we walked through the park. Sometimes we simply sat quietly without speaking much at all. What mattered wasn't the activity. It was showing up. Over time, those simple moments helped us heal in ways expensive vacations or professional success never could. Months later, Emily began volunteering at a grief support center because she wanted others to experience the same comfort she had found through honest conversation. Inspired by her courage, I finally sought counseling instead of pretending I could solve everything alone. Looking back, I often wonder how different our lives might have been if that unexpected rainstorm had never forced us into one sleeping bag. What once seemed like terrible luck became the greatest gift either of us could have received. If this story has touched your heart so far, please support Kindness Corner by liking this video, sharing it with someone who may need encouragement, subscribing for more emotional stories, and letting us know your thoughts. Your engagement helps spread hope to people who may feel alone tonight. Special request: tell us in the comments about someone whose friendship changed your life, or simply write, "True friendship heals," if you believe real friends never stop showing up when it matters most. Life rarely changes because of grand speeches or dramatic miracles. More often, it changes because one person chooses to stay, to listen, and to remind another soul that they never have to face the darkness alone. Sometimes the greatest act of kindness isn't finding the perfect words. It's being there when someone quietly asks if you're still awake, and answering that you always will be.